Trading, markets, and stock exchanges. When we see these scenes played out in movies, it always seems like a very complicated world. We are left with a mixture of admiration and fear of that world, driven by the adrenaline of market fluctuations and the myth of easy earnings, and we feel like getting closer to the world of finance. But the world is not only made up of expert traders, and instead of constantly looking for the right moment to enter the market with the idea of making millions, it is possible to start small and think long-term, investing a small starting amount and increasing it constantly on a weekly or monthly basis. This principle is called pound cost averaging, and it involves investing a certain amount of money, even a small one, at regular intervals, instead of making a single investment, to provide protection against possible market drops. The system was invented in the 1950s by Benjamin Graham, considered one of the greatest investors of all time, and a great inspiration for another financial guru, Warren Buffett.
So how does pound cost averaging work? Let's take John, for example, a university graduate who earns £2,500 a month and wants to invest 2% of his salary, or £50 each month. He chooses a fund that allows him to follow the performance of an underlying index, such as the FTSE 100, which tracks the 100 companies listed on the London Stock Exchange with the highest market capitalization. The amount invested by John each month is always £50, but movements in the market cause the fund price to fluctuate, meaning that John buys a different amount of shares each month. Let's look into this in more detail. The initial price at which John buys the shares is £10. Looking at the whole year, the average price at which John buys the shares is slightly higher than the initial one, reaching £10.58. But this value is neither the minimum nor maximum price which the fund reached during the course of the year. This mechanism shows how investing a recurring amount over time helps reduce the impact of volatility on the investment by averaging out the price at which one buys. Over the course of the year, John invests a total of £600, £50 each month for 12 months. However, the value of his investment reaches £885.90. The difference between these two values shows how the investment tends to perform positively and therefore reduce the impact of price fluctuations.
Okay, now let's get practical. How can you apply pound cost averaging to your investment strategies? Here are some ideas to get started. Number 1, establish your goals. Before starting, you need to have in mind a goal you would like to achieve and the related time frame needed to achieve it. For some, it could be the first investment, like John. You can start with a small percentage of your salary without going too far in defining your final goal, refine it over time, and then start setting more realistic goals. The golden rule is, never invest more money that you can risk losing. Generally, it is recommended that you never invest more than 1 or 2% of your capital in a single operation, so as not to put the entire invested amount at risk. Number 2, choose a long-term goal. Let's take the previous example and see in the long term. Just as John's parents did for him, he wants to be able to pay for his future child's university studies. Your parents probably did the same reasoning when you were little. The timing obviously depends on individual needs, and it would be good to keep ambition at bay in favor of more realistic and achievable scenarios. Always keep in mind that this money should be not invested for a long time and should remain invested except in an emergency. Number 3, establish the frequency. It is necessary to establish the frequency of the investment, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, or even quarterly. Whatever frequency you choose, it should always be easy to maintain and within your means. Consistency, also in this case, is the key to success. Number 4, calculate the amount to invest on a recurring basis. To evaluate the amount to invest on a periodic basis, it is necessary to consider the amount to be reached in relation to the chosen investment frequency. For example, if you want to invest £1,000 in a year on a weekly basis, the sum to be set aside each week is equivalent to £1,000 divided by 52. The pound cost averaging mechanism, in short, allows you to approach the world of investments even with a small starting capital, avoiding giving in the to impulse to invest without planning your actions, and at the same time reducing the impact of volatility.